My name is Mark, and I am 36 years old. I live in a small house with my son, Leo. He is 16, my only child, and I love him more than anything. But things are not good right now. Leo has changed. He used to be kind and happy. He enjoyed school, played football with his friends, and helped me in the garden on weekends. But now he is different. He doesn't listen to me. He stays out late. He skips school. He argues with me all the time. Sometimes, I feel like I don't even know him anymore. One evening, I sat in the kitchen, staring at the clock. It was 9:30 p.m., and Leo was not home. I called his phone. No answer. I called again. Still nothing. My chest tightened with worry. Where is he? I whispered to myself. Pacing back and forth in the small kitchen, at 10 p.m., the front door finally creaked open. Leo walked in, wearing a hoodie that covered most of his face. His shoes left muddy prints on the floor, and his clothes were dirty. A strong smell of cigarettes filled the air. My heart sank. Where were you? I asked, trying to keep my voice calm, though inside, I was anything but out. He muttered quickly. Out where? I pressed. Just out, Dad. Stop asking questions, he snapped and stormed off to his room. I stood in the hallway, feeling lost. What am I doing wrong? Why doesn't he trust me anymore? The questions swirled in my mind, but I had no answers. The next morning, I decided to try again. As Leo poured cereal into a bowl, I sat across from him. Leo, I said gently. We need to talk. He didn't look at me. About what? He asked in a quiet voice. About you. About your life. I'm worried about you. I'm fine, he replied flatly, scooping up a spoonful of cereal. But I do worry, I insisted. You skip school. You stay out late. You don't tell me where you go or who you're with. Leo sighed and rolled his eyes, acting like he didn't care. But I knew, deep down, something was wrong. I just didn't know how to reach him anymore. I'm not a kid, Dad. No, you're not a kid, I said firmly. But you're still my son, and I need to know that you're safe. Leo didn't respond. He just stood up, grabbed his bag, and walked out the door without a word. The door slammed shut behind him, and suddenly, the house felt unbearably quiet, but full of tension. I felt like I was losing him, and the worst part was, I didn't know how to stop it. That afternoon, I went to Leo's school. I needed answers. I sat in Mrs. Carter's small, cluttered office, feeling nervous. She adjusted her glasses and sighed. Leo is a smart boy, she said, her voice kind but serious. But he hasn't been himself lately. He isn't doing his homework. And he's missed 3 tests this month. 3 tests. I repeated in shock. Mrs. Carter nodded. I've also seen him hanging around with some boys after school. They don't seem like a good influence. My stomach twisted. I thanked her and left the office, my mind racing with questions. What happened to my son? How did things get this bad? That night, I waited for Leo to come home. The clock ticked away. 8 o'clock. Then 9 o'clock. Then 9:30. Finally, the door opened, and Leo walked in. His hair was messy, his face looked tired, and there was something in his eyes, something distant. Leo, I said firmly. We need to talk. He sighed heavily and sat down at the table, looking annoyed. I know you don't like my questions, I began. But I'm your father. I love you, and I want to help. I don't need help, he muttered, not meeting my eyes. Yes, you do, I said, leaning closer. Mrs. Carter told me you missed your tests. She told me about the boys you're hanging out with after school. Leo's face hardened. His eyes flashed with anger. You went to my school. Why would you do that? Because I'm worried about you. I said, my voice rising. You're not the same boy you used to be, Leo. You're changing, and not in a good way. Leo shot up from his chair, his fists clenched. You don't understand me, Dad. You'll never understand me, then help me understand. I pleaded. Tell me what's wrong. Tell me why you're acting like this, but he didn't say a word. He just turned and walked to his room, slamming the door so hard that the whole house seemed to shake. I stood there, frozen. I failed. That thought echoed in my mind as I stared at his closed door. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, thinking about Leo. Thinking about his mother. She had passed away when he was 10. Her death had shattered both of us. Maybe he was still hurting. Maybe I hadn't done enough to help him heal. The next morning, I decided to try something different. I got up early and made breakfast, pancakes, his favorite. When Leo walked into the kitchen, he looked surprised. Morning, I said with a smile. Sit down. Let's eat together. He hesitated for a moment but then sat down. We ate in silence, but I didn't ask him any questions. Instead, I talked about my day, about work, the funny dog next door, and the movie I had watched the night before. Slowly, I saw the tension in his shoulders ease. His face softened. After breakfast, I looked at him and said, Leo, I have an idea. What is it? He asked, sounding unsure. Let's go fishing this weekend. Just you and me. Leo looked at me, surprised. Fishing? Yeah, I said with a smile. We used to go all the time. Do you remember? A small smile flickered on his face. Yeah. I remember. Let's do it again, I said. Just like before, he nodded. Okay, that Saturday, we drove to the lake. The sun was shining, and the water sparkled under the bright sky. We cast our fishing lines into the calm water, letting the peacefulness of the moment surround us. At first, we didn't say much. But after a while, Leo broke the silence. I miss Mom, he said softly, staring at the water. My chest tightened. I miss her too, I said, my voice thick with emotion. Sometimes, I feel so angry, he admitted. And I don't even know why. I nodded. It's okay to feel angry, Leo. But you can't let it take over your life. He turned to look at me, his eyes filled with pain. I don't know how to stop. I placed a hand on his shoulder. You don't have to do it alone. I'm here for you. Always. That day changed everything. Leo started talking to me more. He came home on time. He did his homework. He even went to Mrs. Carter and apologized for missing his test. It wasn't an instant fix. There were still tough days, moments when things felt difficult. But little by little, we repaired the bond we had almost lost. I learned that being a father doesn't mean having all the answers. It means being there, even when it feels like you're not doing enough. Leo learned that he didn't have to face his struggles alone. Now, when I look at him, I see the boy I thought I had lost. He's not perfect, no one is, but he's trying. And that's enough for me, because no matter what happens, I will always be there for him.